Sean O'Malley, what are you doing, mate? Okay, we need to talk about a couple of things that are going on with Sean O'Malley and whether or not he's going to turn out to be the next Conor McGregor or the next Ian Garry. See, he did this crazy interview with some kid. I don't know, he's probably a big deal on TikTok or something. I literally had never seen or heard of the kid until he did the rounds on, the MMA Hour or the MMA News Cycle channels, and I started to see that clip of Sean O'Malley talking about having a foursome with his daughter on his lap.
Neon asks Sean O'Malley to have a threesome.
I have a good question. So would you ever have a threesome with, or a foursome, like two girls and me and you?
Yeah, 100%. I love a good four-back. I've never had one with another guy.
I've never had one. I really want to experience it, bro.
And then another interview that Sean O'Malley did, where he's talking about after he beats Marlon Vera, he's going to move up and challenge for champ. All while his division is still it still has Corey Sandhagen in it. It still has Merab Dvalishvili in it. These are real fights that Sean O'Malley needs to fight in his division. I think we all need a little reminder about Sean O'Malley and how he actually got his championship. Remember, he got skipped over a bunch of fights to fight Petr Yan. He won that super controversial decision that, in my eyes, Petr Yan won. And then he just sat out until he got given that shot against Aljo. Now he's taking on someone that doesn't deserve the title shot purely because there is a good storyline there. And then talking about moving up to get a free title shot with no consequences if he loses moving up a weight class. All of this while bouncing his daughter on his lap and talking about foursomes. Honestly, I'm pretty sick of Sean O'Malley at this point, and I don't think it's going to be long before the rest of the community is as well. Okay, let's get right into this. I'm going to talk about all those things, and then I'm going to make a prediction about Sean O'Malley's fight against Marlon Vera. And I think, unfortunately, with all the things that we've talked and everything going on outside of it, it really is only about how Sean O'Malley actually performs against Marlon Vera. Because we do have a lot of fans in MMA at the moment where it doesn't matter how the champion acts on the microphone, as long as the champion is just winning and winning in great fashion, they will pretty much let the champ get away with anything. So MMA, it's obviously a hyper masculine sport. I mean, it's cage fighting. It's people in pretty much nothing but their underwear or their boxer shorts, locked in a cage, beating the living hell out of each other. It's a sort of primal sport, yeah? And Sean O'Malley seems to have captured this new counter audience to that, the bubbling young teenage audience, which is sort of the audience that hasn't really grown into becoming men yet, which, is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But now that he has ascended to having a UFC title, he is a UFC champion, and there is a whole new level of scrutiny and pressure and just media attention that goes with that. Every time Sean O'Malley sits down and does an interview, it is on all the MMA news. It's very different to being a contender or being outside of the top 10 and doing interviews. It doesn't have the same impact as when you are a champion. There are so many more eyes on you when you have that belt. And I don't know if the wider MMA audience knows yet that he would set up dates for his wife to get ran through by his friends. And if the wider, more adult MMA audience knew that, I don't think they would cheer for Sean O'Malley. Now, what makes me say something like that is just look at the way the MMA audience has treated Ian Garry for the situation that he has found himself in with his wife and his wife's partner, or his wife and his wife's ex-partner. Or Ian Garry and his wife and his current nutritionist who travels with them and is also his wife's ex-husband. Look at how the MMA community treat Ian Garry just for that situation alone. The community does pretty much daily stacks on Ian Garry, and even when he does finally come out of hiding and try to re-enter the MMA conversation, he is once again just piled on because he seems to be reading off a script rather than being a genuine person just giving a one-on-one interview. And Sean O'Malley, to me, is dancing closely to the edge of that with his lifestyle. And it's not going to take much for people to start noticing. And an interview with some scrawny TikToker getting excited over swapping sloppy seconds while you're bouncing your daughter on your knee is a horrible look. Now, I get, like, he had headphones on, so his daughter couldn't hear everything that was being said, but I'm sure we all remember, like, sitting around the family house with the parents or the adults in the room, and they were talking about us in third person. You know, they would be like, oh, he's getting so big now. Oh, what is he into? Oh, is he behaving himself? And I'm sure we all have that memory of, like, they're talking about me like I'm not even here. Parents know that children pick up things that you don't expect them to pick up. Children understand a lot of things. And if this is the kind of conversation that Sean O'Malley is comfortable with having online in front of his daughter, imagine what is happening behind the closed doors of the O'Malley house. What are the kids picking up there? And then there's the recent conversation that came up on I think it was the MMA Hour, but Sean O'Malley is quoted about talking about how he beats Marlon Vera and then moves on to take Ilia Topuria if Ilia beats Volkanovski, which just feels wrong because there's so many good contenders for Sean O'Malley still to fight. I don't know what happened this time, but ever since Volk decided that he was going to go up and challenge Islam Makhachev for the champion, ever since that moment happened, every single fighter that has gotten themselves close to a belt, even just barely won the belt, is talking about moving up and taking on another challenger. Dricus du Plessis is already talking about moving up. He hasn't even won the belt yet. I mean, Volkanovski got to move up because he completely emptied out his division, and he also had Max Holloway emptying out his division as well. There was nothing else for Volkanovski to do. But now every single challenger is just like, yeah, once I win this, I'm going to go ahead and win too. Like, straight away, without even fighting the top 5. Islam Makhachev is also talking about moving up and wants to fight Leon Edwards. And the only person in the top 5 that he has fought is Charles Oliveira. I'm only getting into all that because there have been multiple posts on X, videos, just talk in the entire MMA community, the entire MMA culture that seems to be sick of champions talking about moving up when they haven't earned it. It's one of the biggest talking points that we had over Christmas. And Sean O'Malley comes out without even feeling like he's even earned his championship status. He just didn't take on that many top 5. I don't think he took on any top 5 contenders. He pretty much skipped the queue, fought Jan, and then won his championship. And now he's talking about moving up when there is work to do in his own division. And talking about moving up at this point just feels so disconnected from the entire MMA community. And we've seen the MMA community turn on its champions. Look at the way the MMA community just flipped a switch and turned on Israel Adesanya. Look how quickly he went from a fan favorite to unanimously hated. He was getting booed in Australia. This is meant to be his region. And the Australians were cheering for Sean Strickland to beat him up. Sean O'Malley is dancing closely to that edge as well. And if he tries to duck the Merab fight, if Merab beats Henry Cejudo and Sean O'Malley beats Marlon Vera, and then Sean O'Malley tries to duck that Merab fight, the abuse that he is going to get online is going to be phenomenal. And if you don't think that can happen, Leon Edwards is copping abuse for ducking Belal Muhammad, and no one likes Belal. No one likes Belal, and they're still getting behind Belal because he has just earned it that much. Now, unfortunately, a lot of MMA fans only care about one thing when someone is the champion, and that is winning. But it's not just winning. They have to win dominantly, okay? Israel Adesanya had a lot of wins, but he quickly became known as that meme of the leg kicks from range. No one wants to see a boring champion just defend again and again in a boring way. They want to see violence. They want to see an action-packed champion. It's one of the reasons why Volkanovski started off with pretty much no fan base at all as a champion, and then slowly grew a fan base because he would go in there and just start beating the living piss out of people. And unfortunately, I do think that Sean O'Malley is going to be the kind of guy that does these press conferences talking about stringing together beautiful performances, violent knockouts. And to be fair, on his way up, he did love chasing a knockout. He did love putting on a show. He knew that he needed to find these highlight finishes. But I really do think that now that he is champion, we are going to see him pivot into point striking and doing enough to just retain the championship. Because I think when you won the championship the way that Sean O'Malley did, and you really didn't put in all that work in the grinder of the top 10, like the boys over at lightweight have to do, it builds this confidence in you when you go through that grinder of the top 10. And Sean O'Malley, in the back of his mind, subconsciously, might be missing a bit of that confidence to know whether or not he really is the man. You know, there could be a bit of imposter syndrome there, as well as the pressure of being a champion. You'll do anything to just hold on to the championship. And we've already seen, like with the Petr Yan fight, that Sean O'Malley has the UFC on his side. When they were setting up the Sean O'Malley versus Aljo, they rushed Aljo, hoping that he would suffer from another weight cut so close to his previous fight, hoping that Aljo would carry over some injury from his previous fight. All Sean O'Malley has to do is go into the cage as a champion and put a good enough performance up where it's arguable that he won the fight, and the UFC will do the rest. He just has to point strike to get ahead. So to me, the way that I'm sitting at it, looking at this all play out for the next year, in 2024, you're going to have a Sean O'Malley that is a point striking defending champion, which is a bit of a boring champion, ducking his contenders, bouncing his daughter on his lap, talking about swapping her mum with a TikTok influencer. That's going to be our champion, Sean O'Malley. I'm going to be getting off the Sean O'Malley train at this point, ladies and gentlemen. To be honest, I was never really on it, but to me, that's just not the sort of champion that I'm going to be getting behind. And by the sounds of it, it doesn't really matter to Sean O'Malley who gets behind it. But they're just my thoughts after seeing Sean O'Malley's recent interviews. The more and more I see him in front of the camera, the more and more he seems to turn me off. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you a fan of Sean O'Malley? Are you looking forward to this new championship run that we might be getting out of Sean O'Malley? To you, is it just about all the awesome striking that he puts up and you don't really care about what he says on the microphone? Or are you a fan of what he's saying on the microphone and what he's doing? Let me know down there in the comments. If you're still watching this part of the video, that means you've been entertained or laughed or thought about it from a different perspective. So if you could say thank you by hitting that subscribe button down there before you go and click onto your next video, that means so much to small creators like myself. And of course, I'll see you all in the next one.